There's something deeply familiar about mushrooms. The soft chew in a pan of butter, the earthy scent rising when they touch heat, a comfort that feels both humble and rich. For many of us, it's the smell of home cooking. But that simple comfort has been quietly compromised. In just the past year, the FDA recalled several imported enoki mushrooms for possible listeria contamination. One case from September alone affected thousands of packages across multiple states. The problem isn't rare anymore, it's systemic. Contamination, rebranding, and rushed imports now threaten something that once seemed the safest of all. And yet we can't simply give them up. From omelets to stir-fries, from pasta sauces to creamy soups, mushrooms hold flavor together. Without them, a meal feels unfinished. That's why today's need for clean, honest mushrooms is more urgent than ever. In this video, we'll show you 6 brands to avoid and 2 that still honor the earth. Here we go for your next warm bowl of mushroom soup. Number 1. Signature. As I mentioned before, last September, the FDA recalled enoki mushrooms sold under the Signature brand for possible listeria contamination. This is not just a recall. Look closer and you'll see layers hiding beneath. These mushrooms came in 200-gram packs stacked neatly in refrigerated aisles from New York to California. Clean white, almost glowing under supermarket lights. The kind of pack that whispers safety. But when the New York State Department of Agriculture tested a few samples during a random inspection, they found Listeria monocytogenes, a bacteria invisible to the eye, silent to the smell. The recall followed quickly, but not quickly enough for thousands of those packs already purchased and eaten. This is where the problem runs deeper than one brand. Imported mushrooms often reach store shelves before all lab results return. Retailers under pressure to keep produce fresh push stock through tight supply chains. By the time an alert goes out, consumers have long taken them home. It's a race between freshness and verification, and the wrong side often wins. On paper, the company followed procedure. The FDA posted an advisory, distributors pulled stock, and websites listed lot codes. But in practice, this cycle repeats almost every season. One shipment fails testing. Another enters under a different label or importer ID. The package changes, the barcode shifts, but the handling and facility often remain the same. Moreover, it's not just about bacteria. When mushrooms are grown, washed, and repacked too fast, they lose their natural resistance. Moisture trapped in sealed packs creates perfect conditions for microbes. Cold storage slows the problem but doesn't erase it. Add distance flights, warehouses, waiting docks, and fresh becomes a fragile promise. A woman in Ohio later told a local reporter she'd already used her signature mushrooms in a soup before hearing the news. She felt fine but worried for her grandchildren. "You can't see danger in something that looks so clean," she said. That sentence sums up the modern grocery paradox. The safer it looks, the less we question. Eventually, the FDA closed the case, marking it terminated. But a terminated case doesn't mean a solved system. It only means the paperwork is complete. Meanwhile, the next batch, maybe from the same facility, maybe not, is already on the shelf, repeating the loop. The truth is, safety inspections and freshness deadlines are moving on different clocks. The first measures days in testing. The second measures hours on display. Between them lies the risk we quietly absorb through trust and habit. So when you pick a pack that looks perfect, remember the unseen timeline behind it: a factory in another country, a ship across the ocean, a waiting line at customs, and a race against decay. Safety cannot run faster than inspection. Number 2. HoFood 99. Same recall, same bacteria, but this brand tells a different story from Signature. In June 2025, the FDA announced a nationwide recall of enoki mushrooms produced by HoFood 99. The reason was familiar possible listeria contamination, but the scale was far larger. Shipments moved through multiple states from California to New York before testing caught up. Thousands of packets were already on kitchen shelves. At first, it looked like another case of bad luck. But when you trace how this company operates, luck has little to do with it. HoFood 99 runs a factory where everything moves on rhythm, fast-timed, mechanical. Workers stand by conveyor belts as thin white stems slide past in a constant stream. The air smells of cold metal and bleach. Plastic wraps hiss as they seal. A red counter on the wall flashes every time another 100 packs leave the line. The goal here isn't craft, it's completion. Each second saved means more boxes shipped. Washing is quick, drying quicker. If the mushrooms look clean, that's good enough. The packaging machines hum like a chorus, feeding sleeves and printing labels in one continuous motion. A batch finished in the morning can be boxed, labeled, and ready for export by evening. Inside this efficiency lies the real issue. Safety checks happen later, not alongside production. When testing takes days but shipping takes hours, contamination isn't a rare failure. It's an expected side effect. The process is so polished that any small pause feels like an interruption, something to fix rather than to heed. HoFood 99 learned how to hide this pressure behind an image of reliability. Their design looks calm in modern clean white font, a soft green leaf, and the word premium printed near the barcode. For most shoppers, that look is enough. On the shelf, it feels trustworthy, not cheap, not suspicious. People see a foreign brand, assume careful standards, and move on. But premium in print doesn't guarantee purity in process. The packaging language is simple, even charming, naturally grown fresh taste from the farm. Yet those farms are hundreds of miles away, often supplying multiple factories at once. It's a patchwork supply chain, stitched together by contracts, not soil. The label might change depending on the buyer, but the mushrooms often come from the same large drying and packing sites. A former logistics manager speaking anonymously to a local paper described it bluntly. The trick isn't in the growing, it's in the timing. You ship before the results come back. If the batch clears later, you're fine. If not, you issue a recall. And that's the hidden formula: profit, first verification later. It's not negligence in the emotional sense, it's arithmetic. The system calculates that occasional recalls cost less than slowing production. Still, the packaging tells a softer story. It sits in coolers beside familiar brands, promising clean meals and modern safety. Yet behind that smooth plastic lies a rhythm too fast for care. As one food safety analyst put it, when production turns, automatic risk becomes part of the formula. Number 3. Harvest NYC. The first bite of enoki is delicate, a soft crunch, a whisper of sweetness. It feels clean, safe, familiar. A simple joy that slips into soups, omelets, or stir-fries. But beneath that comfort, there's something you might not want to swallow at all. Harvest NYC built its image on that very feeling familiarity. The name itself feels close to home, doesn't it? You see Harvest and NYC together and you picture morning markets, wooden crates, and paper bags of fresh produce. The logo shows a little skyline and a green leaf. The label looks soft, crafted, almost handmade. For many shoppers, especially older ones, it gives the sense of buying something pure, something made by people rather than machines. Margaret, a 67-year-old widow from Queens, bought it often. She liked the thought that it came from upstate farms. Every Friday, she'd saute a handful with butter and parsley, serve it beside toast, and tell herself she was eating something good for her. It became a ritual, something honest in a world that no longer felt simple. Then came the stomach pain. Dull at first, then sharp enough to keep her up through the night. The doctor said it might be foodborne bacteria. A few days later, she saw a short notice on television: FDA recalls Harvest NYC enoki mushrooms due to possible listeria contamination. Her pack was already gone, but the timing matched. It wasn't certain, but it felt close enough. Listeria isn't always dramatic. It creeps: mild fever, stomach cramps, a bit of dizziness. For the young, it passes. For older bodies like Margaret's, it lingers, tires the heart, and tests the nerves. What hurt most wasn't the pain, it was the sense of betrayal. That gentle label she'd trusted now looked like decoration, nothing more. But to be fair, Harvest NYC didn't set out to harm. Their story is the story of survival in a market too fast for honesty. In today's food world, safety and sincerity don't always sell, familiarity does. To stand out among rows of imports and identical packaging, you need something soft, something that feels close. So they borrowed the comfort of place. They dressed a foreign supply chain in a local name. However, when the goal becomes staying visible, care tends to fade. Focus shifts to design, logistics, and timing, not the slow work of making sure each batch is clean. That's how a trusted label can become an unknowing messenger of risk. Margaret knows that now. She still buys mushrooms, but she reads every label twice. She looks for the small print, where it was packed, who distributed it, when it was tested. And when she cooks, she waits until the steam smells earthy, not metallic. The ritual remains, but it's quieter now, more cautious. A bowl of mushrooms, simple and safe, still sits on her table. Only this time, trust takes longer to cook. Now she reads every label twice and waits for mushrooms that smell like earth, not printing ink. Number 4. Daily Veggies. You think that's all for listeria? How can one bacteria slip through more than 3 brands, right? Ironically, yes, it can. This time we have Daily Veggies. In March 2025, the FDA announced another recall of enoki mushrooms, this time under the label Daily Veggies. Same warning, same bacteria, same type of packaging, even the same distributor behind the scenes. What made it worse was that this wasn't their first time. Only 3 months earlier, in December, they had pulled back another batch for the exact same reason. At first glance, it looks like coincidence, but the deeper you go, the more it feels like déjà vu. The logos and colors may differ, but the mushrooms often come from the same handful of facilities. Shared growers, shared washing lines, shared storage spaces. It's a single chain wearing multiple masks. That's why one bacteria can travel so far. When a contamination enters the system, it doesn't stay with one name. It rides along containers, pallets, and suppliers that handle multiple brands. Even if one company cleans up, the next one inherits the same risk. Fixing the label doesn't fix the loop. Inside those factories, cleaning days follow recalls like clockwork. New gloves, new disinfectant, sometimes even a press release with a photo of smiling workers holding safety first signs. Yet the problem often comes back not because they don't care, but because the system doesn't rest long enough to recover. The schedule is packed, the contracts tight, the margins thin. Mushrooms have to move, freshness is money, delay is loss. Still, every recall chips away a bit more of the trust that holds the food chain together. Consumers may forgive once, maybe twice, but when the same bacteria keeps reappearing under different names, patience turns into fatigue. You can't lay faith on someone who just circles around one puddle. Moreover, that fatigue doesn't just affect the buyers. It seeps into the industry itself. When recall notices start sounding routine, even genuine concern begins to fade. Safety stops being a mission and becomes paperwork, something to file, not to feel. It's the burnout of an entire system that keeps promising improvement but keeps repeating the same mistake. By the time Daily Veggies issued its second apology, the public had already moved on. The statement was polite, the tone responsible, but the message felt familiar. We are committed to ensuring the highest safety standards for our valued customers. The words are fine. The meaning is gone. At the grocery store, a man scrolling through his phone reads the headline, "Listeria recall Daily Veggies enoki mushrooms, then sighs." He keeps walking. He doesn't even look up to check the shelf, not out of defiance but exhaustion. Because when the same bacteria keeps coming back with a new name, the real danger isn't what's on the shelf. It's the moment people stop paying attention. You can't build trust when every promise sounds like the last apology. Number 5, Tiffany Food Corp. It wasn't bacteria this time, it was chemistry. In February 2025, Tiffany Food Corp recalled its Huangfushanzhen dried mushrooms after the FDA found undeclared sulfites. For most people, that notice slipped by without much noise. No hospital headlines, no major panic. But for anyone with asthma, allergies, or a weak respiratory system, those tiny white crystals can mean more than just a bad meal. They can trigger shortness of breath, dizziness, or worse. Sulfites are often added to dried foods to preserve color and stop mold from forming. They keep mushrooms looking pale and uniform on the shelf, even after months in storage. The problem isn't their use, it's their silence. When a label doesn't mention them, the buyer never gets to decide for themselves. At first, most shoppers don't see the risk. Dried foods feel safe. They sit neatly sealed, crisp and clean, a long way from the messy realities of fresh produce. People assume dry means sterile, but preservation has its own chemistry. To keep mushrooms shelf stable for a year or more, packers rely on additives and gas treatments that stretch life far beyond nature's clock. And when that process isn't clearly declared, trust quietly erodes. Imagine a man in his 60s cooking soup on a silent Sunday. He adds a handful of dried mushrooms to the pot, something simple, comforting, routine. Within minutes, he starts to cough. He thinks it's just the steam, but the air feels heavy. His chest tightens. He sits down, breathing slow and shallow. Only later, after his daughter finds the recall online, do they realize the mushrooms contain sulfites that weren't listed on the bag. That's what makes this kind of mistake different from bacteria. Listeria or E. coli can be traced clean, stopped. But undeclared chemicals hide in the paperwork, invisible until someone reacts. It's not just a single batch gone wrong. It's a pattern of oversight where speed and simplicity take priority over precision. However, Tiffany's case wasn't unique. Many imported dry goods from herbs to mushrooms travel through a maze of repackaging and rebranding. Each stop adds new text, new translations, new printing errors. Somewhere along that chain, one small omission, the word sulfite, gets lost. And when it does, the protection law was meant to give the buyer simply disappears. The hard truth is, most consumers never check ingredient labels on dried mushrooms. They look at the brand, the color, maybe the weight. The rest seems too small to matter. But for people with sensitive systems, that small print can be the difference between comfort and crisis. In the end, chemistry doesn't always announce itself. It sits quietly inside the packaging under perfect fonts and bright seals. We can't stop every mistake in the system, but we can slow down long enough to read and ask what's really inside. Sometimes the danger isn't what grows on food, it's what hides in the label. Number 6, 3 coins, dried mushrooms. Think dried means safe, 3 coins proved otherwise. In August 2022, the FDA announced a recall of 3COINS dried mushrooms imported and distributed by Thai fat wholesalers in Maryland. The reason possible: salmonella contamination. For many shoppers, it was almost unthinkable. Dried mushrooms, the kind you tuck away in a pantry jar for months, were supposed to be the opposite of risky. They weren't raw meat. They weren't fresh produce. They were shelf-stable, dependable, harmless. Or so it seemed. That illusion cracked with a single press release. The contamination didn't come from bad storage or poor handling in the US. It started long before that in the soil, the drying sheds, or the water used to rinse mushrooms before dehydration overseas. Dried mushrooms often travel thousands of miles, moving through layers of suppliers and warehouses before ending up in neat plastic bags on American shelves. Each layer means new hands, new surfaces, new air. One misstep and a whole batch can quietly carry bacteria that outlives the journey. What made the 3COINS case stand out wasn't the recall itself, but what it revealed about assumptions. We tend to think dry means clean. When moisture disappears, danger feels gone. But salmonella can survive desiccation for months, waiting for the next humid kitchen or simmering pot to wake it up. And that's exactly how an ordinary home meal can become the final step in a long-forgotten chain of mistakes. In the FDA's announcement, the warning was clear but oddly familiar: check your packaging, look for the brand, throw it away if found. Yet the language of caution has become routine. To many, it was another headline they half-read over morning coffee. A small story about a big truth: convenience doesn't erase vulnerability. Picture a grandmother in Virginia who's been cooking mushroom soup every winter for decades. She's careful, frugal, loyal to the same store. On her pantry shelf sits a sealed bag of 3COINS, clean design, golden label, clear pouch, showing perfectly dried stems. When she hears about the recall on the evening news, she pauses. It's the same kind she's used for years. She holds the bag in her hand a little longer before setting it down quietly, unsettled. Something about that certainty she once felt no longer feels solid. The company behind 3COINS acted responsibly, voluntary recall cooperation with regulators, no cover-up. But the incident exposed how fragile safety really is in long-distance food networks. Dried goods depend on trust more than temperature. A single shipment out of sync can ripple through hundreds of stores. By the time a notice appears, the mushrooms might already be cooked, eaten, or forgotten. Drying preserves texture, not truth. The product may last longer, but its story still shortens when shortcuts appear upstream. Even so, this isn't about fear. It's about awareness, understanding that dry and safe aren't the same thing. Whether it's a fresh pack or a jar from the shelf, what protects us isn't time or convenience. It's curiosity. Dry doesn't mean harmless. Check the bag, not just the price. If the stories so far have felt heavy, that's because truth often hides in the simplest foods. From fresh enoki to dried imports, we've seen how trust stretches from bacteria to chemistry to the quiet cracks of inspection. Yet the goal isn't fear, it's awareness. Each recall, each headline, each label teaches us the same thing: safety isn't guaranteed by habit. And amid all these warnings, there are still brands that do it right, the ones that value purity over Polish process, over pressure. It's time to turn to them and to the taste that honesty still protects. Number 7. Monterey Mushrooms. This one built trust not by hiding, but by inviting people in Monterey Mushrooms. While most headlines in recent years have been about recalls, contamination, or chemicals, this California company quietly followed a different path. It's not a new name. Founded in the early 70s in Watsonville, Monterey, has grown into the largest privately owned mushroom producer in North America. But what makes it stand out isn't size. It's how it treats transparency as part of the product itself. Unlike many brands that sell through layers of repackagers and middlemen, Monterey controls nearly every step of its process. They make their own compost. They run their own growing houses. They package, label, and distribute under one traceable system. That means the mushrooms you pick up in a store have spent their entire life under a single roof, born, grown, tested, and shipped, without ever leaving sight of the same team. Here, safety isn't a slogan, it's structure. Monterey keeps all production under USDA and FDA oversight with regular third-party audits. The company's website even lists its certifications and food safety programs for anyone to see, a rare move in an industry where most fine print stays hidden behind supplier codes. It's not flashy marketing, it's quiet accountability. Step inside one of their grow houses and you won't find conveyor belts rushing at factory speed. The air is cool and moist, the lighting soft, the smell faintly earthy. Workers check trays by hand, adjusting humidity and temperature hour by hour. Each room operates like a small ecosystem, stable, predictable, alive. And when harvest comes, the mushrooms are packed immediately in a temperature-controlled space, sealed, labeled, and scanned with traceable QR codes. Every carton carries a digital trail that can lead inspectors straight back to the exact growing room. One technician described it simply, "If it doesn't pass, it doesn't leave." That discipline pays off. In more than 50 years, Monterey Mushrooms has faced remarkably few recalls, a rare record in such a fragile food category. Their approach shows that safety doesn't require miracles or slogans, just consistency. When you own the process, you own the outcome. But beyond the science and structure, there's something deeply human about their work. The company trains employees in both hygiene and stewardship. Many workers have been there for decades, people who see mushrooms not as a crop but a craft. They understand that what the consumer buys isn't just food, it's trust in motion. Moreover, Monterey's model points to a truth we've nearly forgotten: local control means local confidence. The closer food stays to its source, the easier it is to keep honest. And in an age where convenience often outruns care, that closeness becomes priceless. You can taste the difference too. Monterey mushrooms have a clean, gentle aroma, earthy, but not damp, light yet flavorful. They hold their shape in a pan, don't leak water, and cook evenly. They're a reminder that safe can still taste good, and that integrity isn't just a promise, it's a flavor. Clean food isn't complicated, it's just cared for every single day. Number 8. Phillips Gourmet Mushrooms. Phillips Gourmet Mushrooms isn't just good at growing, it's good at keeping mushrooms honest and affordable. In Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, the town proudly known as the mushroom capital of the world, Phillips, began in 1979 with one simple goal: grow better mushrooms and make them available to everyone, not just restaurants or luxury stores. Back then, exotic varieties like shiitake and maitake were rare in American kitchens. Phillips took the risk of cultivating them on U.S. soil, building their own labs, compost facilities, and grow houses long before farm-to-table was a trend. That courage built a legacy. Today, their mushrooms reach grocery stores and dining tables across the country, but the heart of the company hasn't changed. Phillips still runs like a family business, steady-grounded and proudly American. They recycle their own compost, repurpose mushroom byproducts as soil nutrients, and even provide local farmers with leftover substrate to reduce waste. It's a closed loop that keeps both quality and cost in balance. Unlike many premium brands that turned organic into a price tag, Phillips kept things fair. You won't find gold-stamped packaging or celebrity endorsements, just clear plastic, neat labeling, and mushrooms that taste the way they should: earthy, balanced, and fresh. Their goal has never been to chase luxury, but to make good food feel normal again. The company's innovation lies not in marketing, but in efficiency. Controlled environments, smart humidity systems, and a fully local supply chain keep the price of their gourmet mushrooms reasonable, even in a market where inflation has driven fresh produce costs up by double digits. By focusing on steady production instead of flashy expansion, they protect what really matters: reliability. And that reliability shows in feedback. A retired teacher from Ohio described their shiitake as the only mushroom that reminds me of the ones I picked in my garden 30 years ago. A chef in New Jersey told a local paper Phillips mushrooms are the one ingredient I never need to apologize for. Reviews often mention consistency, firm texture, rich aroma, and no excess moisture. In an age where consumers are used to disappointment hidden under shiny packaging, Phillips delivers the opposite: simple satisfaction. Moreover, their community work speaks louder than any ad. Phillips funds local agricultural training programs, hires locally, and opens its facilities for public tours. Visitors can walk through the cool, misty grow rooms, touch the compost beds, and see how each mushroom is checked by hand before packing. Transparency isn't a PR gesture, it's a habit. That honesty comes through in every bite. Their portobellos sear beautifully without shrinking. Their shiitakes keep their chew and release a deep, nutty scent. It's food made with care, sold at a price that respects both the grower and the eater. In the end, Phillips Gourmet proves something simple, yet rare: that success doesn't require cutting corners or inflating prices. When a company keeps its roots close to the soil and its standards close to the people, everyone wins. Real mushrooms don't need miracles, just care, discipline, and a fair price. If there's one lesson all these stories share, it's that awareness is the quiet power behind every safe meal. Mushrooms, like people, grow best in balance, not in fear, not in blind trust, but in light. The recalls, the mistakes, the recoveries, they all remind us that food safety isn't something we buy, it's something we participate in. Read the label, ask the origin. Support the producers who show their work instead of hiding it. Clean doesn't always mean perfect, and affordable doesn't mean careless. What truly matters is the intention, the care behind every step. So the next time you hold a pack of mushrooms in your hands, take a second to think of the people who raised it, the systems that protect it, and the choices that define it. Awareness doesn't cost much, but it saves more than you can imagine.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage education. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.